Have you ever stopped to wonder what secrets lie hidden within the ancient pages of the Bible? Behind the stories we've heard since childhood, there are tales of extraordinary buildings, monuments that rise and fall, constructions that defy reason, and mysteries that still puzzle scientists and archaeologists today. Some of these structures were breathtaking wonders, built with unimaginable wealth and precision. Others collapsed in ways that seemed impossible, leaving behind only whispers of the divine. But here's the question: were these stories just symbolic legends? Or could they be echoes of real events, written across the stones of history and faith? Introduction, Storytelling Mode. Today, I want to take you on a journey, not just through the Bible as a sacred text, but through its landscapes, its architecture, and its breathtaking monuments. Imagine walking into a world where faith was so powerful that walls crumbled at the sound of trumpets, where a single man built a colossal vessel that survived a global flood, and where golden temples reflected the glory of heaven itself. These aren't just stories. They are windows into the faith, the fears, and the hopes of people thousands of years ago. People who left us messages carved not only into words, but into stone, wood, and earth. And here's the fascinating part. Even though centuries have passed and kingdoms have risen and fallen, the echoes of these constructions remain. Modern researchers still dig through the ruins, trying to piece together evidence. But the truth is, some of these mysteries remain unsolved. Was it truly divine power? Was it natural disaster? Or could it be that some events were so extraordinary that they forever blurred the line between faith and fact? Narrative build up. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself there. The desert sun beating down on your skin. The sound of hammers striking wood. The voices of men and women praying, singing, sometimes doubting, sometimes trembling with awe. In every corner of the story, there is both wonder and struggle, moments of overwhelming triumph and moments of collapse that left people asking, why? This is not just a story about buildings. It is about the people who built them, the God who inspired them, and the mysteries that surround them to this very day. Transition into the body. And so, in this video, we will uncover 5 of the most extraordinary constructions ever described in the Bible. We'll explore the ark that carried life through a flood, the walls of a city that fell without a single stone being touched, the temple that glowed with gold, a tower that reached toward heaven only to be silenced, and a second temple that became the very heart of a nation's faith. Each one holds a story. Each one hides a lesson. And by the time we reach the final construction on our list, you might just find yourself speechless. So, let's begin this journey together, through faith, through history, and through the mysteries of the Bible's greatest constructions. So, let's step into the first chapter of our journey. A story so ancient, so mysterious, that even today, its echoes can still be heard in legends, in ruins, and perhaps even in the whispers of the sea. 1. The Ark of Noah, a ship of faith against the storm. Picture this. The earth is filled with corruption, violence, and despair. Humanity has lost its way. And in the middle of this darkness, one man is given an impossible command. Build an ark. Now think about it. There were no cranes, no modern saws, no massive shipyards by the sea. Just hands hardened by labor, wood from a forest, and a faith so unshakable that it carried him through decades of ridicule. Noah's Ark wasn't just a wooden boat. Its scale was massive, comparable in length to a modern cargo ship. Imagine the sound of hammers echoing across the valley, neighbors laughing, skeptics pointing fingers, and yet Noah keeps building. Why? Because his trust wasn't in human approval. It was in God's word. And then the rain came. Heavy, relentless. The earth groaned. Rivers swelled. Mountains disappeared beneath the waters. Inside the ark, pairs of animals shuffled in their stalls, the smell of hay and pitch filling the air, while Noah and his family clung to hope. Was it myth? Was it memory of a great flood passed down through generations? Archaeologists have found evidence of massive floods in Mesopotamia thousands of years ago. Others point to strange formations on Mount Ararat that some believe might be the remains of Noah's vessel. The debate continues. But whether seen as literal history or as a divine symbol, the ark carries a timeless message. When storms come, faith can be the strongest vessel of all. 2. The walls of Jericho when faith shook stone. Now imagine this scene. You are standing before a city with walls so thick, so high that conquering it seems impossible. Jericho was one of the oldest fortified cities in the world, a fortress that laughed at invaders. But here's where the story takes a turn. God instructs Joshua and the people of Israel to fight not with swords, but with silence. For 6 days, they marched once around the city, saying nothing. Can you imagine the tension? The people inside Jericho must have laughed. Is this your plan? Walking in circles? Then came the 7th day. 7 circles around the city. The sound of trumpets blasting. The roar of thousands of voices lifted in faith. And then, collapse. Stone upon stone tumbled like sand, and Jericho fell without a single ram battering its gates. Was it divine intervention? Was it an earthquake striking at the perfect moment? Archaeologists in the 20th century uncovered walls at Jericho that seemed to have fallen outward, a rare phenomenon in ancient warfare. Science struggles to explain it fully, but faith remembers it clearly. Sometimes walls fall not because of force, but because of belief. And isn't that still true today? We all face walls, fear, doubt, challenges that seem impossible. Yet the story of Jericho reminds us that with faith, even the strongest barriers can crumble. 3. The Temple of Solomon, a house for the glory of God. Next, we travel to Jerusalem. The sun glints against golden stone, and there it is, a temple unlike anything the world had seen before. King Solomon, known for his wisdom, fulfills the dream of his father David, to build a house for God. The site? Mount Moriah, the very place where Abraham once raised a knife over Isaac. The design? Majestic, precise, sacred. The interior shimmered with gold, walls lined with cedar, carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and flowers. The Ark of the Covenant rested in the Holy of Holies, a room so sacred that only the high priest could enter once a year. Can you imagine standing outside, hearing the choirs sing, smelling the incense rise, and knowing that within those walls heaven touched earth? But it wasn't just beauty. It was a symbol, God dwelling among his people. Archaeology still searches for definitive traces of Solomon's temple, though fragments from the First Temple period have been discovered around Jerusalem. Yet the story's power is more than historical. It is spiritual. For in that temple, prayer and sacrifice weren't empty rituals. They were encounters with the living God. And when the glory of the Lord filled the temple, the people knew they were not alone. For the Tower of Babel, pride that reached for the sky. Now, let's rewind even further in time. Humanity speaks one language, united in ambition. Together they decide, let's build a tower so tall it reaches the heavens. The Tower of Babel was more than bricks and mortar. It was pride in stone. It was humanity saying we don't need God. We can climb to heaven on our own. Brick by brick, the tower grew. Smoke from furnaces where clay was baked blackened the sky. Workers shouted orders. Scaffolds creaked. The tower stretched higher and higher. But then confusion. A mason asks for a brick and receives water. A carpenter gives orders, but no one understands. Voices fracture, languages split, and chaos consumes the site. The work halts. The dream crumbles. The people scatter. Many scholars believe the story may echo ancient ziggurats, stepped temples of Mesopotamia. The most famous, Etemenanke in Babylon, was described as a house that connects heaven and earth. It rose tall, but was destroyed and rebuilt many times. Could this have inspired the biblical account? Whether myth or memory, the lesson endures. When pride replaces humility, when humanity reaches for heaven without God, collapse is inevitable. 5. The Second Temple, a nation reborn from ashes. Finally, our journey brings us back to Jerusalem, but this time, the city lies in ruins. The first temple has been destroyed. The people of Israel carried away into exile. For 70 years, they wept by the rivers of Babylon, wondering if God had abandoned them. But exile ended. A new hope rose. Under the decree of Cyrus the Great, the Jews returned and began to rebuild. The second temple was smaller, humbler, lacking the golden brilliance of Solomon's. The elders who remembered the first wept. And yet, God promised through the prophet Haggai, the glory of this latter house will be greater than the former. Centuries later, King Herod expanded the temple into a wonder of the ancient world. Massive courtyards, white marble, golden accents that blazed under the sun. Pilgrims came from every corner of the land. And in those courts, a young rabbi named Jesus would one day teach, heal, and challenge the leaders of his time. But prophecy also warned this temple would fall. In 70 A.D., Roman legions set it ablaze. Gold melted into cracks between stones. Soldiers pried each block apart. Today, all that remains is the Western Wall, a place where prayers still rise, where memory and hope intertwine. The Second Temple stood as both triumph and tragedy, a reminder that buildings may fall, but faith endures. And that brings us to the heart of the matter. These 5 constructions are more than stories of stone and wood. They are mirrors, reflecting human weakness, human strength, and above all, the unshakable presence of God in history. And so, after journeying through these great biblical constructions, the Ark of Noah, the walls of Jericho, the glorious Temple of Solomon, the soaring Tower of Babel, and the Second Temple of Jerusalem, we arrive at a deeper realization. These were never just about stone, wood, or gold. They were about faith. They were about people reaching for something greater than themselves. And above all, they were about the eternal story of God meeting humanity. Think about it. The Ark was not simply a vessel of survival. It was a lifeboat of hope. Jericho's crumbling walls remind us that no obstacle, no matter how impossible, can withstand the power of God's promises. Solomon's temple whispered of God's desire to dwell among his people, while Babel warned us of pride that blinds us from truth. And the rebuilding of the Second Temple testified to resilience. A people broken, yet still willing to rebuild what was lost, still believing in restoration. Now let me ask you, isn't that what our own lives are like? We build things. Some are strong, others fragile. Some stand tall, others crumble. But the true question is, what foundation are we building on? The Bible tells us we are now the temple of the Holy Spirit. Imagine that. You, me, every single one of us can be a living temple where God chooses to dwell. Not in massive stone walls, not in gold-covered halls, but right here within the heart that is willing to receive him. So as we look back at these grand structures of the past, the real invitation is to look inward. Are we making space for God in our lives? Are we building with faith, humility, and love? Or are we stacking bricks of pride and self-reliance that may one day fall? Just like Babel, if your heart longs for God to dwell in you, I invite you right now to whisper a simple prayer. Lord, make me your dwelling place. Build my life upon your truth. Because here's the truth. While temples and towers may rise and fall, while walls may stand or crumble, what truly lasts is a faith that connects us to God. That is a construction worth dedicating your life to. And this is only the beginning. If you've been inspired by the stories of these great biblical structures, imagine stepping deeper into the world of the Bible. Not just the buildings, but the daily lives of the people who walked those ancient streets. How they dressed, what they ate, how they prayed, and how their faith shaped every part of their lives. That's what we'll explore in our next journey. So don't stop here. Click on the video waiting for you on the screen, and let's continue this walk through history, faith, and the timeless wisdom of the Bible together. Because the story of God's people isn't just about the past. It's a living story still unfolding in you right now.